The auction hall smelled of smoke, sweat, and fear. Elena Vasquez stood in a line of chained wolves, her wrists raw from the metal, her bare feet cold against the stone floor. For 3 years she had been a rogue, running from pack to pack, hiding in forests and abandoned barns, never staying anywhere long enough to be found. But 2 nights ago, hunters had finally caught her. Now she waited her turn to be sold like an animal, to whoever offered the highest price. She kept her eyes down. Looking up meant hoping, and hope was dangerous here. The buyers in this underground market did not care about kindness. They wanted servants, workers, sometimes worse. Elena had heard the whispered stories of what happened to wolves who were bought and never seen again. She promised herself she would not cry. Not here, not in front of these people. The auctioneer, a thin man with a cruel smile, called out numbers as each wolf was pushed forward. When it was Elena's turn, rough hands shoved her onto the wooden platform. The crowd murmured, sizing her up like she was livestock. She kept her chin low, refusing to meet their eyes, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her fear. Then the room went quiet. Elena felt it before she understood it. A shift in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. She lifted her eyes just slightly and saw him. He stood near the back of the hall, tall and still, wearing a long dark coat that marked him as someone important. Every person in the room had turned toward him, and even the guards straightened their backs. She did not know his name yet, but she knew what he was, an alpha. Not just any alpha, the way the room bent around him, the way even the auctioneer's voice trembled slightly, told her this was the Alpha King himself. Damon Kane, ruler of Blackmore Ridge, one of the most powerful werewolf territories in the region. Kings did not come to slave auctions. Everyone knew that. Kings sent representatives, if they came at all, and only to observe, never to participate. So when Damon Kane raised his hand and named a price for Elena that was 10 times higher than anything spoken that night, the entire hall fell into stunned silence. The auctioneer stammered out his agreement almost instantly. No one dared to bid against a king. Elena did not understand what was happening. Her legs felt weak as guards unlocked her chains and pushed her toward the man who had just bought her. She braced herself, expecting cruelty, expecting to trade one captor for another. But when she finally stood in front of him, close enough to see his face clearly, something strange happened. His eyes were golden brown, and when they met hers, she felt a jolt run through her chest, sharp and unfamiliar, like her heart had skipped, and then beat twice as hard to catch up. She saw the same shock flicker across his face, quickly hidden beneath a calm expression. "You are free," he said quietly, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "I did not buy you to keep you. I bought your freedom." Elena blinked, certain she had misheard him. Free? The word felt foreign in her mouth. She had not been free in 3 years. "You may leave whenever you wish," Damon said, "but I would ask that you stay in Blackmore Ridge tonight, if only for your own safety. The roads are not kind to a lone wolf after dark, especially one who has just been seen at an auction." He was right, and she knew it. Outside these walls, hunters and rival packs would be watching for exactly this. A vulnerable wolf traveling alone. Reluctantly, she nodded. As they left the auction hall together, whispers followed them like smoke. Damon Kane, the Alpha King, had never done anything like this before. He had never shown interest in any wolf brought to that terrible market. Something about tonight was different, and everyone who witnessed it knew it. Damon led her not to a cell or a servant's quarters, but to a modest room in the pack house, warm and clean, with a fire already burning in the hearth. He left food for her and told her that no one would disturb her rest. Before he closed the door, he paused. "What is your name?" he asked. "Elena," she answered, still cautious, still waiting for the trick, the catch, the moment his kindness would turn to something else. "Elena," he repeated, like he was testing how the word felt. "Rest well. Tomorrow, if you choose to leave, no one will stop you." But Elena did not leave. Not because she trusted him yet, but because for the first time in 3 years, she was warm, fed, and safe, and her body was too exhausted to argue with that. She woke to a knock on her door, a young pack member named Sarah, kind-eyed and quick to smile, told her that tonight was a full moon, and that any wolf staying within Blackmore Ridge territory, even temporarily, was required to complete a registration shift in front of the pack elders. It was old law, Sarah explained apologetically, a safety measure that had existed for centuries. Every wolf who set foot in the territory during a full moon had to reveal their wolf form so the elders could confirm they carried no dangerous magic or hidden threat. Elena's stomach turned cold. She had spent 3 years hiding her wolf from everyone, refusing to shift even when it hurt, even when her bones ached with the need to change. She could not explain to Sarah why the thought of shifting in front of strangers terrified her so deeply, only that it did. "I can't," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I haven't shifted in a long time." Sarah's expression softened with confusion and concern. "You have to, Elena. It's the full moon. Your body won't be able to resist it much longer, especially not with elders and other wolves nearby. The pull becomes too strong." Elena knew this was true. She had felt the ache building in her chest since sunset, a pressure behind her ribs that grew heavier with each passing hour. She had always fought through it before, isolated in the woods where no one could see. But here, surrounded by an entire pack, she doubted she could hold on much longer. By the time midnight approached, Elena stood in the ceremonial courtyard behind the pack house, facing a semicircle of pack elders dressed in formal robes. Damon stood among them, though slightly apart, his eyes fixed on her with an expression she could not quite read. Worry, maybe, or anticipation. The moon rose high and full above them, its silver light pouring down like liquid glass. Elena felt the change begin deep inside her, the familiar burning pull she had suppressed for years finally breaking free. She tried one last time to hold it back, gripping her own arms as if she could physically stop the transformation. "Let it happen," Damon said gently, stepping closer. "You are safe here. No one will hurt you." Something in his voice, steady and certain, made the fear in her chest loosen just slightly. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in 3 years, she stopped fighting. The shift rippled through her like a wave breaking, fast and consuming. Where Elena had stood a moment before, a wolf now crouched on the stone ground, her fur a striking silver white that seemed to glow faintly under the moonlight. Across her chest, unmistakable even from a distance, was a crescent-shaped marking, pale and delicate, like a moon caught mid-phase. The courtyard fell utterly silent. Then, one by one, the elders began to kneel. It started with the oldest among them, a gray-haired woman named Elder Mabel, who dropped to one knee with a gasp that sounded almost like relief. The others followed swiftly, murmuring words Elena's wolf mind could barely register. Words like lunar line and the promise returned, and we thought it was lost forever. Elena, still in her wolf form, looked around in confusion, unable to understand why powerful pack elders were bowing before her. She turned toward Damon, and what she saw stole what little breath she had left. He was staring at her with an expression of stunned, overwhelming recognition, as though pieces of a puzzle he had carried his entire life had suddenly clicked into place. Slowly, Elena shifted back into her human form, wrapping the blanket someone quickly offered around her shoulders. Her legs trembled, not from cold, but from confusion, and the weight of dozens of eyes fixed on her. "What is happening?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Why are they kneeling?" Elder Mabel rose first, her eyes glistening with tears she did not bother to hide. "Child, do you not know what mark you carry? The crescent upon your chest belongs to the lunar line, a bloodline our ancestors swore loyalty to centuries ago. It vanished 3 generations back, and we believed it lost forever. We have waited so long for its return." Elena shook her head slowly. "I didn't know. I don't know anything about my family. I was abandoned as a pup. I never knew where I came from." "Whatever your past," Elder Mabel said gently, "your blood carries a truth older than any of us, and it explains something else entirely." She glanced meaningfully toward Damon, who had not moved, who had not spoken, who seemed frozen in place by something far deeper than shock. "The lunar line," Elder Mabel continued, "was foretold, generations ago, to be fated to walk beside the Alpha King's own bloodline, mate to mate, protector to protector. It is why our king could not stop himself tonight from paying any price to save you. His wolf recognized what his mind did not yet understand. Elena's heart pounded so loudly she was certain everyone could hear it. She looked at Damon, searching his face for doubt, for hesitation, for any sign that this was a mistake. She found none. "I felt it the moment I saw you," Damon admitted quietly, stepping closer until he stood directly before her. "I told myself I was simply intervening because it was wrong to see anyone sold like that. But it was more than that. Something inside me knew you before I ever learned your name." Elena's throat tightened. She had spent 3 years believing she belonged nowhere, that she was nothing but a burden and a target, a wolf without a pack, without a family, without a place in the world. And now an entire courtyard of powerful wolves knelt before her, and the most powerful among them looked at her, not with pity or ownership, but with something achingly close to wonder. "I don't know what any of this means," she whispered. "I don't know how to be whoever you think I am." "You don't have to know yet," Damon said softly. "You only have to decide if you want to stay and find out." For a long moment, Elena said nothing. She thought of the years spent running, hungry and alone, terrified of every shadow and every stranger. She thought of the chains on her wrists just hours ago, the auction block, the cold indifference of a world that had never once offered her kindness without a price attached. And now, here she stood, free, seen, and, perhaps for the first time in her life, wanted, not for what she could give, but simply for who she was. "I want to stay," she said finally, her voice steadier than she expected. "I want to understand." A murmur of approval rippled through the elders. Damon's expression eased into something warm and unguarded, a small smile breaking through the composed mask he usually wore. He extended his hand toward her, not as a king claiming property, not as a master accepting a servant, but as an equal offering a partnership freely chosen. "Then let Blackmore Ridge witness this truth," he announced, turning to face the gathered pack, his voice carrying clearly across the courtyard. "Elena is not a prize I have won, nor a servant bound to my will. She is the mate the moon has promised me, and this pack will honor her as they honor me." The pack members who had gathered to watch erupted into quiet, respectful applause, the kind reserved for moments everyone understood to be historic. Elena felt tears finally slip free, not from fear this time, but from the overwhelming relief of being welcomed somewhere at last. As the ceremony ended and the elders dispersed, whispering excitedly among themselves about the return of the lunar line, Damon remained beside her, his hand still gently holding hers. "Thank you," Elena said quietly, "for buying my freedom, even before you knew what I was." "I would have done it regardless," Damon replied. "Freedom should never have a condition attached to it. What we discovered tonight only proves something my heart already knew the moment I saw you standing on that platform." Elena looked up at the moon, still bright and full above them, and for the first time in 3 years, she did not feel like a wolf running from danger. She felt like a woman finally arriving home, standing beside someone who saw her worth long before the world revealed her name. Together, they turned back toward the pack house, leaving behind chains, cages, and a past that no longer defined her, walking instead toward whatever future the moonlight had promised them both.